Welcome to the Why Not Today podcast, where we celebrate courage, determination, and the power of saying, Why not today? I'm your host, Leslie Kane, and in each episode, we dive into inspiring stories of individuals who have taken bold steps, faced their fears, and embraced the possibilities of today. From entrepreneurs to dreamers to doers, we explore the moments when they said, Enough waiting, why not today? Join me as we uncover the heartwarming, the audacious, and the transformative, whether it's pursuing a lifelong passion, overcoming obstacles, or simply choosing joy. Our guests share their journeys to inspire us all. I started this podcast in honor of my father, Patrick Kane, who often did say, Why not today? And remember, you're just one decision away from changing your life. And so, my guest today is Julie Duncan, and she has a coaching business called Empowering Life Coaching and Consulting. And Julie and I, this is the first time we've met face to face today as we're doing this. And I do mention on these podcasts too that they are available audio, video, and I don't edit them. And the reason I don't is it's part of the Why Not Say message that we just need to do the thing and don't overthink it. And it's not going to be perfect. And so Julie and I met through social media. I posted something about a mastermind group I'm doing, and she connected, and we had a great conversation. And thought just from her courage journey, I think you're a perfect example, Julie, of overcoming obstacles. And I love all the things you're doing. And she's got a book coming out, and probably about the time this podcast will release. So lots of cool things going on. So, Julie, why don't you introduce yourself and a fun fact, and then we'll get into your courage story.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Leslie. Yes, I'm delighted to be here, and I was so happy to meet you. Your slogan, Why Not Today, was very captivating for me. So I'm not too far from you. I'm in Winchester, Virginia, and I live with my very supportive husband. I say he's supported my crazy adventures for over
Mm-hmm.
25 years, and I've had a few of them, as maybe you have and your listeners have, but
Yeah,
um, builds character, right? And we have
absolutely.
embarked upon empty nesting. Last year, our youngest son, moved to Richmond to start his college adventure. And we have two wonderful adult kids. And I always say empty nesting is not for the faint of heart, but
Mhm.
when we're able to see what wonderful human beings they are working at becoming, it makes it easier. And we're able to visit them and see them quite often. We make our way to Richmond, Virginia quite often. So, yeah. And so for our missing our kids, we have two furry pod cats that we just adore. And everybody says, oh, you've just replaced your kids with those cats. And yes, we have. So
And they
anybody
don't
that
come back.
that's right. And anybody that has kids and replaced their cats or pets and has replaced them with your children, I understand. I get you because you have to have something to fill the void.
Yeah. So, what's a fun fact about you, Miss Julie?
Okay, so a fun fact is I once did an 80-mile bike ride. And
Oh,
before
wow.
you ooh and ah over it, it was anything but glamorous. I didn't train. The most I had ever done was a 20-mile ride on flat land. And this was anything but flat land. And I grew up in the border of Pennsylvania, New York. So at one point, we found ourselves at the very end, unbeknownst to us, we were going to be climbing a hill, which was much closer to a mountain than anything. Mind you, I had not trained. And back then, I was more dive into the pool, but not really know if there's any water. And it cost me, and it cost me dearly. It wasn't
Uh-oh.
very glamorous, as I said. I have never been so sore in all of my born days. I did survive, but it wasn't pretty. Couldn't get out of bed for 2 days. And now I make sure there's water in the pool before I dive in.
That's kind of smart. I've never heard that saying, but I'm like one that, like, I definitely jump before I think sometimes and just go do it. I'm like, I'll figure it out. Yeah, but I haven't done an 80-mile bike ride. So, but so, Julie, what does courage mean to you?
So I love this quote: fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. And when I think about that's from Winston Churchill, by the way. And when I think about my story, I was filled with fear. I had to dig extremely deep to be able to find courage, but I had to make a decision that that was a route I was going to take. Fear can be very paralyzing, right?
Absolutely.
And I
So
love the definition. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say so true that it stops us and people, and that's probably one of the messages I try to convey with the Why Not Today is you just got to do it. Take that baby step.
Yep, yep. And, fear. If you spell fear out, what is it? false
False.
evidence appearing real.
Yep.
So many times fear paralyzes us, but we don't even have all the information. We have to dig deep, get the courage to even make the decision and know what the decision looks like and what all that entails, instead of letting the fear stop us immediately and buying into the false evidence. And boy, I can really relate to that when I think about the courage I had to have to apply to college and after being told blatantly no and all that went on with that decision.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your courage journey in a second. But I'm excited that you are co-authoring a book with Les Brown, that's coming out in September
Me
of
too.
2024. So super exciting. And I always, talk about connections, and it's fun to find that connecting source. So Les Brown worked closely, or has worked closely with Willie Jolly, which you need to look him up.
I need to
He
write that
is
down.
in
Yes.
DC, and he actually got started. He was what he worked in a, I think, like nightclub singing, and then they replaced him with karaoke, and he had to like figure out what he was going to do. So since then, he's written books, he's on the radio, but I think he got his start with working with Les Brown. So, and Willie
Wow.
Jolly is a friend of mine, so we kind of go full circle back around, which is kind of fun. Your connection with Les Brown. So I know you've had a really adventurous courage journey. So let's start back to high school when somebody put something in your head that wasn't very positive, how you overcame it, and then I know when we talked before this that you recently listened to something that Les Brown shared and around success principles, and I think we're gonna share those and tie those into your courage journey to give people more hope and permission. And I really um, encourage people to take that leap, do those things. So take it away, Miss Julie.
Excellent. Thank you. I hope I serve you, Leslie, and I hope I serve your listeners by doing this. I've been very blessed and I'm very grateful. Years and years ago, we never know where our adventures are going to take us. But I remember, I want to share this one story. I remember listening to Les Brown. He was in the hospital. His nurses were there. They were taking his IV, pull all around him. He's a four-time cancer survivor. He was still serving his people in the hospital on a Facebook Live. And this was, goodness, 7, 8 years ago. And I thought, this is a man I really want to know. This is a man I really can connect with because his bravery, his courage was like none other. And he was talking, he said, just a minute, I'm serving my people. I'm talking to my people. And he's laughing. So that was one of the little reasons why, well, that was a big reason, but there were so many reasons why I chose to partner with him when it came to my story. And I feel very blessed that I've been gifted with so much wisdom from him through the years. So these 5 snippets of success that I'm going to share um, are from Les Brown, and then I'll tie in my story and my courage as I go through them. Okay.
And by the way, too, I forgot Willie Jolly was on this podcast. So
Oh,
we have an episode with Willie Jolly.
I need to look that up.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first one is and I'm going to read his little snippets because I will never quote Les Brown on my own. He's like none other, and I want to do him justice. So I'm just going to read the little snippets. Number one, I'm sure if anybody's familiar with Les Brown, they know that he says this. It's possible. A lot of times we run into one obstacle after another, feeling defeated. I'm sure Leslie, yourself, your listeners can all relate to this. Life is full of trials and tribulations, right? It's a natural response to want to retreat, give up. It's just not worth it, right? So, what do we do in those times? We need to take the position that it is possible. Well, how do we know that? Who's gone before you? Who's done it before? Find your mentors, find your people to show you that it's possible. Find people that believe in you. You have to understand that it's possible. And so that's what I did. I had a grandmother, goodness gracious, let me flesh this story out real quick. Her mother died when she was age 3. Okay, so her farmer father in rural Pennsylvania raised 7 kids.
Oh my goodness.
Somehow, I wish I knew the story and she was still living to tell me. Somehow she made her way, all the resources, all the financial help to go to Penn State Teachers College, it was called then, because she wanted to teach. She rode the train from rural America to Penn State and completed her degree, and she did that alone for 4 years back and forth. And I was extremely close to her, and she was my mentor. And there was no way on God's green earth that I wasn't going to college and follow her footprints. I even wanted to do. She was a teacher, but then she ended up going to be a social worker later in life. So my dream as a little girl was I was going to go to college and follow her footsteps. I didn't have a plan B. So she was my it's possible person. So when my guidance counselor, when I was 17 years old, these 5 words left his mouth, the bottom dropped out for me. And what he said, Leslie, was, "You are not college material."
Why would anybody possibly say that to anybody?
Well, okay,
Have you gone back to him?
no, I thought about it. But I will say, to his credit, on paper, he wasn't all that wrong. I chose my friends, I chose partying, I skipped more school than I will admit to anybody at this point, even though it's decades later. My SATs were an embarrassment. School was not a priority to me. So on paper, I can understand what he was saying, but
Right.
he didn't give me any options. So I didn't believe it was possible. That's all it took for a kid that was 17 years old who already lacked self-confidence, self-worth, self-esteem, and I had this internal identity of it's just not enough. I'm just not enough. So when he said that, it cut to my soul, and I didn't believe it was possible.
Hmm.
But I had my grandmother, as I said,
Got to have that person that's going to believe in you.
and I thought, okay, if she can do it, there may be hope for me. And of course I went to her and she said, "Oh, no, no, no. We're going to work this out." So she was my motivation to take the next step and do all the things that I did to get there. But the first step is you need to believe it's possible.
True. And just take that first step possible. Don't have to have it all figured out.
And my courage, I had no courage at that point. When he said those words, I had no courage. It took me about 2, 3 weeks to really dig deep and say, okay, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And this is necessary, which is part of the next steps. I had to find the recesses of courage inside of me. It was very challenging.
Yeah. Well, good for you. So did you go to college?
I didn't go to college. And so the next step that Les Brown says is it's necessary. It's not enough just to have the options. You often have dreams that we dibble and dabble in. Of course, guilty, 100%. If you feel like that dream or goal can give meaning or drive to your life, we can't just casually go after it. It's necessary that you pursue it passionately. We can't just stroll to the goal. It's necessary that we pursue it passionately with everything in us. And I love the ending, everything in us. So I knew it was necessary to go to college. I had squandered high school. I had a close group knit friend group, and they all had their plans. And I was like, I have FOMO. I am not going to be left behind. The option that my school guidance counselor, Mr. King was his name, gave me was to be a manager of Burger King. It was never my vision to be a fast food manager at a
Yeah,
local fast food restaurant.
definitely not.
And I was hungry. Les talks about being hungry. I had FOMO. I didn't want to be left behind. I wanted more. Even though I was kind of filled with a lot of self doubt and never enough, I felt like this was my chance to prove people wrong, prove myself wrong. It was necessary that I went. So I dug deep and I filled out the college application. I went to the guidance office and I bypassed Mr. King and I got the application and I filled it out. And it was really, honestly, against all odds that I was going to be accepted. And I knew that. My mom was a single mom. Resources were very tight. She worked an above minimum wage job. So the next part is if it's going to be, it's up to me. That's his third success tip. And this is a good one.
Anytime.
So I'll share that one before I go into the next part. It's up to me. Lack of money and resources don't always matter. They should never be your stopping point. Along the way, there will be people who will help you. There will be people who will give you assistance, making it less difficult. But ultimately, the driving force that allows you to transcend yourself is you. Is that powerful? The one force to make it happen to you is you. You take full responsibility.
So true.
Wow. And that's what I had to do. I had to dig deep. I had to get the application. I had to find the funding because, again, my mom was a single mom. We didn't have the resources for it. But I was hungry and I found the courage deep within my resources. I'll be honest, it was really, really hard and made it happen. And I'll never forget the day my mom came running into Burger King where I was working, waving this paper. And I thought, oh my gosh, who is that crazy woman? I'm going to pretend I don't know her. And she comes running in, you did it, you got accepted. But it was conditional. I had to be in good academic standing at the end of the first semester. So again, who's going to do that? There's no
That's up for
Superman
you.
coming to save me. And I
Yep.
knew that. I grew up with Superman, right? That remember Leslie, the show Superman. I know I'm dating myself here, but Superman wasn't going to come to save me. It was me, myself, and I.
Right.
So I had to really find the courage to say no to the things that I had always known. My friends were my lifeline. I loved my friends. I made lots of friends when I went to college. But I knew that there was no way I was going to make it if I was out doing partying and giving up what I needed to do. So I
Right.
honed up in the library, all the highlighters you can imagine, took notes of my notes, all the books stacked up because I was an underdog. And I didn't know Superman at the point. Superman had to
Right.
be me. So the end of the semester, I sat in front of the college advisor and said, congratulations, you are a fully enrolled student.
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. But then I knew the last part of success, which Les talks about, is it's going to be hard. We can't expect life. We can't expect life will just be handed to you. It's not going to be easy. Easy is not an option. You have to develop an appreciation for something that is crucial if you want it. An appreciation for hard. Yikes, who likes that, right?
Exactly.
Yes, it's hard. So what? If it's hard, you do it hard. I love the power in his words. So I knew when I sat in front of that, my advisor, it wasn't over. That was one semester that I had dug deep, found the courage to
Right.
get there
You just
to
got to
do
keep
the work.
going.
But my friends were still out having fun on the weekends, and I was in my dorm room. My friends were still out on weeknights. I was still in my dorm room because remember, I didn't have the academia behind me. I was an underdog and I felt it and I knew it and it was overwhelming. So I kept having to dig, having to dig, having to dig, having to keep showing up when it was hard. And so that's what happened. And I graduated 4 years later with a bachelor's of social work. And then about 10 years later, I had the opportunity to go to graduate school. And I thought, oh, no, because people that I worked with were presenting it. Oh, you would be great. You would love it. You know, it'll be really good for you. I think you're a perfect candidate. No, that first time was awful. I can't do that again. But again, it had a lot of value to me and I wanted it. And I was hungry for more once again, because I've always been kind of hungry.
So
And
did
what
you
I
go back to
realized,
school?
what's that?
Did you go?
I did. And what I realize now, Leslie, and at the time I was young, what I realize at the time now is that mental, emotional strength that we build up during these painful points in our life, if we have the courage, we make the decision to put through, to get through, we build emotional resiliency that can carry us for the rest of our life.
Absolutely. So
And
in your why not today journey and the courage points, are there points in your journey, and I call them my why not today moments, that you remember exactly where you were when you made a pivotal decision? Like I was standing here with this person, like you can completely jump back into there. Or were there moments in your journey like when you obviously sitting in your counselor's office, you remember that?
Mhm.
what he said. And but in other areas like getting into college, um, going to grad school, or with your business, were there moments that you remember exactly where you were?
Oh my goodness. So emotionally charged events, we tend to remember much more than every day. I can't remember what I
Yep.
had for dinner last week, last Sunday for dinner, but I can tell you exactly where I was decades ago talking to the Burger King manager. I was so shell shocked. I didn't know what to do. So I did go to him and said, "This is what my guidance counselor is recommending." And he was ready to hire me, even though I was still in high school. We can start training you to be a manager today. I
Mm.
remember the setting. I remember the creek that ran, by the parking lot. I remember
Okay.
the the sun was setting. It was like 7 o'clock at night. All of it. And I also remember that was a turning point. And I walked away from that conversation and I thought, there's absolutely no way that won't happen for me. So
Yeah.
pivotal moment.
Yeah. And I love that you said those emotionally charged moments we remember. Um, and
Hmm.
when you have those pivotal, and usually when you're making a major decision in your life, it's emotionally, whether it's you have to make the decision or you've got two paths, which one are you going on? And to make that decision, usually it is emotional. So I love that phrase. Were there any other why not stay moments?
Another one was July of 2023. We're 2024 now, right? Yeah, 2023. When someone, it was kind of a mentor to me. Oh, you should be a life coach. What? What are you talking about? That's not possible. I can never be. I don't know anything about that. And then all the negative mantras started in my head. And then I hung up the phone and I thought, why not? Like maybe that
Why
would
not
be
today?
my natural next step. I had a master's in counseling psychology, maybe. So I started to sheepishly research it and look into it. And then something just hit me. Oh my goodness, this just looks like the natural next step for me. So that was another pivotal moment.
That's awesome. Well, and I told you I've got a good friend that's in the Lynchburg area, and she's a coach, and she went from social worker environment to she was on the podcast too,
Mhm.
driving, and like, okay, something I got to do something else, and she started
Yeah.
coaching business, and now she does coaching coaches, which is awesome. So did you go through all your left brown points, or do we have any more?
The last one is it's worth it. You have to believe it's worth it.
Yep.
And for me, it was totally worth it. And if you look at Les Brown's history, I don't know if you or your listeners know too much about him, but all you have to do is go to YouTube and listen to any video and he shares his story. It's really, really incredible. He was adopted. He was born on a cement floor. He and his brother Wes, his mother told the adopted mother, "You will not separate them." She promised she never would, and she didn't. But Les was known as the dumb twin. He was labeled, he had a pretty serious label as far as
Again,
learning
why do we label
disabilities.
people?
Yeah, and I'm not going to say the word that he uses because it's nothing we should ever use, should have ever used, or use in today's language. But he was labeled severely, like he had a severe learning disability, four-time cancer survivor. But then he went on to fill the Georgia Dome with 80,000 people, but it took him 14 years to be able to have the courage to be able to build up to even be able to public speak.
Yeah, no, he definitely has an amazing story.
Yes,
So
yes.
I love that. And I love that you were able to take your courage story and share tips with people on from somebody else, and that you have this book coming out. So it's very exciting. So how would you, and I know we talked about a lot of these going through it, but how would you encourage somebody else to take those moments and just try it, have those why not today moments, or move forward and do the things, or start the business, or go to college, or get another degree?
I think understanding your why is pivotal. Like, why would you want to do that? For me, it was I didn't want to be left behind. I had FOMO. I had big dreams inside of me. My why was huge. And if we have a little tiny why, that might not be the inspiration to push through the pain points and find the courage that we need. If we have a big why, that can be very motivating. And then find people that you can align with, find people that believe in you. I didn't believe in myself, but man, I had to find some people that, to walk beside me that did.
Right. Love that. Yeah. So we definitely need to find those mentors, those people. And and I've
Yes.
talked about this several times here. People are willing to help. You just got to ask.
Yes.
Somebody recently said she was talking to a mentor and asking him, telling him, like, I need help this, and this, and this. And the person said, you just need to add one more phrase to that. And she goes, what? She goes, will you help me? And she's like, yeah, sure.
Yes.
So asking, looking for those mentors because people want to give back. And I'm in the process, I'm always reading, but I'm reading 2 books and it's both of them stories of somebody that was successful that reached down and mentored somebody else that
Love it. I love
and
it.
it's rewarding to be able to mentor. And that's one of the things I love about this podcast is people are listening to it and we're changing lives and we're making a difference and we're giving people courage. There's one young lady, which I am going to hopefully get on the podcast that I met her one day. She was with my sister. She was a coworker of my sister's. And she was like, oh my gosh, you're the one with the podcast. I've been listening to it. And she was in a job that she did not like it, but she was commuting a really far way, like an hour each way and listening to the podcast gave her the courage to um, get another job, something close by, and live her life. So, if there's anything I want to encourage people to do is like live your life, be be passionate about what you want, and be brave to put you first.
I love that. I
And
love that.
and just like talking about Les Brown, we're serving and we're doing. When you do that, your passion and your why is so big.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes. I love all that, Leslie. And one thing I'd like to add to it is um, sometimes other people believe in us before we believe in ourselves
oh,
and
absolutely.
tap into their belief because my grandmother believed in me more than anyone and I didn't really believe in myself. It was very hard walking on that campus with all those voices in my head, but I wasn't about to let her down and I borrowed her belief.
Awesome. Love that. So, well, thank you for being on the podcast. And how I know we're going to share all your contact information in the show notes, but what's the best way for people to find you, Julie?
I'm Facebook. You can DM me. I'm on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. My website is julieduncancoaching.com. Um, Easy to find.
All right, perfect. Well, thank you for sharing your stories and your wisdom from Les Brown.
Mhm.
And I can't wait for the book to come out. And when it comes out, we will share that information here also. And thank you, everybody, for joining us on this inspiring journey. Remember, every day is an opportunity to take action, chase your dreams, and make a difference. So why not today? And you can find everything you want to know about the Why Not Today podcast under whynottodaypodcast.com. And you can subscribe, share, and keep pushing forward. Um, and until next time, stay motivated and keep making things happen. Remember, say, why not today? And thanks, Julie.
Thank you. It's been an honor.